As you can see from me shoving the books in your face, I'm gonna be reading 3 classics in this video. How are you guys? Are y'all doing okay? I hope y'all are doing fine. The days are longer now, so more time to read, more time to actually like not let the weather affect us. Days are slowly getting better. Summer's approaching. Anyways, what am I saying? The days are getting longer, so that's more time for me to read and not feel like I want to fall asleep. So I'm gonna be reading 3 classics in this video: Of Mice and Men, John Steinbeck; The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway; and the third one, A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. So I don't really read classics, so this is gonna be kind of weird. This video is gonna be a little bit shorter. I'm gonna give you my thoughts on each book as I read it and finish it, and at the end just give a whole summation of the entirety of these novels and what I think about them, star ratings, stuff like that. So yeah, I got this copy of Mice and Men from the thrift store. It's already like annotated kind of, so that's nice. Used books, they sometimes tend to have annotations in them. It's kind of like a cute little like, oh, this book has been loved before, so people actually thought about it enough to like write in it and stuff, so that's pretty cute. What page am I on? I am 7 pages through Of Mice and Men. This is a reread because I read this in like high school. So yeah, I will tell you guys my thoughts on where I am in Of Mice and Men later. It is like 5 million days later. That's an exaggeration. It's like 5 days later. I finished Of Mice and Men. Still hit probably harder than it did in high school. When did I read this? I can't remember. But I read this in school, in high school sometime. And this book literally, like, it hurt. It hurts. It hurts. If you know, you know. The ending, yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty soul crushing. First classic is done. I'm gonna move on to the next classic on my list, which is right on my nightstand over here. It's The Fisherman and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. Can't talk today. So yeah, I'm gonna do a little speed review of what I thought of this classic, and then at the end of the video I'll do like a whole full wrap up of all 3 classics I read. Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. I took some notes on my computer as I was reading because I find that helps me articulate my thoughts better. Right off the bat, I saw a lot of striking imagery in this book of California in the 1930s while the Great Depression was going on, so I thought that was a really interesting setting for this book. Also, the whole book, they're like manifesting, George and Lenny, the 2 main characters, they're manifesting their dream life, which is to live on a farm and, quote, live off the fat of the land. Basically have their own place, have their own farm with their own ranch, their own animals, livestock, all that sort of thing. That's just basically what they've been working towards this whole book. They have their country accents and they're talking the way people on a ranch would. Lenny, the character Lenny, is literally so sweet and innocent. Like, I just wish I could hug him. He's the most adorable. I can see why this book would be considered a classic. It's required reading in school, at least the time when I went to high school or junior. I still can't remember when I read this. And something I noticed while this whole book, while they're talking about their dreams, they're just like manifesting these dreams into hopefully becoming their reality. But I guess what I learned from this classic is that sometimes you dream and then it doesn't work out. It just, things don't turn out like you thought they would. Which, if you've read this book, you know what happens at the end. I'm gonna be moving on to the next classic. This lighting is terrible and I'm sorry about that. So let me grab the next book, The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. This has been sitting on my shelf for like literally forever. I've never touched it, not once. I think this will be a second book to continue this video with, so I will come back once I have updates on my reading. A million years later, I have finally finished The Old Man and the Sea. It's really annoying to me how long it takes me to read books, but here we go. It got done. It was 126 and a half pages and I'm finally finished. I do have a few notes. I understand why this is a classic. Part of the reason it's a classic is because it has like the way he writes his books. It's like very short sentences. I wrote a few notes here. I thought that it was like a stream of consciousness like writing style. So the way he writes, it's like every thought he's thinking, that it's like written down on the page. It's very like the water's very still right now. The sun's beating down. I'm getting kind of hungry. I might eat soon, but I want to hold on to the fish as long as I can, like that kind of thing. That's the type of way he was writing. The premise is he's an old Cuban fisherman. There's a boy that goes with him sometimes, and they have a really good, like almost like father and son relationship. He's really close with this boy. They help each other fish, and the boy takes care of the old man. His whole mission, the old man's mission, is to get this marlin that's like been in the ocean. It's been like taunting him for forever, and he just finally wants to get this fish, right? It's like this prized accomplishment that he wants to achieve. He ultimately just wants to get it, and he would feel accomplished because of that. The old man and me are so completely opposite because he is so patient. He is so steadfast in this whole thing. It takes him over the course of like 2 or 3 days to get this fish. I would be not even half of the first day. I'd be like, can we go home? Like, I'm over this already. As I'm reading it, I'm like, he's doing all this work to get this fish, and I'm like, are you for real? Honestly, I feel like this book is a lesson in patience. Basically, that's it. What I gained from this classic is that you can put so much time and energy into something, and it still doesn't turn out the way you want. The ending, I felt so sorry for him. I'm like, oh my gosh, like... all that work. I won't go that far deep into it, but it just takes me a minute to like really marinate on books and really think about them and my thoughts. So sorry if these are like kind of like my thoughts are kind of all over the place. With this video, this is the first video I'm doing that I'm taking notes, so I know what to say and I'm not just spitballing. Can you charge, please? So I'm not just like spitballing random pieces of information that don't make sense. I feel like I've been doing that. Yeah, that's like I mentioned in the last clip. I'm going to just recap all of my thoughts better at the end of this video and in a way that it makes sense, and the whole purpose of this video basically. So I will see you guys again once I finish the last book, which it's sitting over there and I have yet to open it because I need to get better at reading multiple books at the same time, because it takes me like 15 business days to get through a book. I'm like... But yeah, I'll see you guys once I'm done with that one. So it's been like a month and a half, but I finally finished all 3 books that I intended to read for this classics video. Don't judge me. It's been a hectic month and a half, if I must say. The last book I read for this video was Lord of the Flies. I'm just gonna go through a like speed review, kind of like my review and rating of each book. So I do want to say a disclaimer, like I've never really seriously read classics before, so I don't have like the word like discernment for how to like judge and analyze classics. I'm not really good at that. I'm getting better at like analyzing books and getting into why I like them, what books I should recommend to you guys. But anyway, now that that's out of the way, the first book I read for this video, which was like 500 years ago, Of Mice and Men, and I bought it at the thrift store, so I saw it and I was like, okay, I kind of want to get that. It's a reread and I like the story. I can't even remember if I gave a rating for Of Mice and Men yet, but if I haven't, just in case, I'm gonna say I give this like 3.5 stars. I'm gonna sit on it a little bit longer, as if I haven't sat on it long enough. I say 3.5 for this book because I don't really know how to rate short books like this. I agree with the New York Times, like the little blurb by the New York Times on the back. It is a thriller nearing the end, if you've read the book. I thought it was a fast-paced story. There were moments where I'm like, Lenny, don't do that, and I was just like, gosh. I think the reason that this is a classic, it's like character analysis of these 2 characters, George and Lenny. It's like during the Depression, I think, in California during the 1930s. So it's like hard to find like consistent jobs. So they're jumping from job to job on like farms and stuff and ranches. The choices that these characters made, and especially the analysis of people during this time period, I think it's very, very important of the choices they made. The actions that had specific consequences, especially the big thing that happened at the end of the book. Sorry if I'm like rambling and not making any sense, but yeah, 3.5 stars. I understand why this is a classic. It won the Nobel Prize in Literature. On to the next book, Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea. His short declarative sentences did more to change the style of written English, and I do understand that because it's kind of like took me a while to read, but it's because when I'm reading short sentences, it's like, okay, blah 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 blah. Like it's like it's like being stopped or like interrupted by something every 2 seconds, which was the period in the sentence, and I'm like, I like longer sentences, but not too long, like flowery language. I like it just right when it's the right sentence length and stuff like that. So basically, the main character in this book is the old man. He's an old Cuban fisherman, and his mission in life is to get this big marlin. That's like his enemy. It's like this big fish out in the water that he's always wanted to catch since he was little. The whole book is basically him in the ocean fighting with this fish, and some of the language I couldn't understand. I'm like, okay, he's doing what to the fish, or like how is he holding him, and like what's going on, how is the fish moving? It's like I was trying to imagine it in my head. I'm like, what? His determination and like consistency in getting this fish is, I think, part of the reason why this is a classic, mostly from Hemingway's just writing style and points that he's made. On the back it says the classic theme of courage in the face of defeat. That's continually in literature and in movies as well. I feel like that's been like something that as a society we like to see. If I were to give this book a rating, again, it is a pretty short book, so I don't really know how to rate short books. Honestly, I'm gonna say 3 stars because, again, this might be like a dumb reason. I just didn't like the length of the sentences. I'm just like, okay, like keep going, keep going, keep going. It was like almost felt like I was trudging through the book. Other than that, I thought it was a thrilling story, almost like not as thrilling as Of Mice and Men and Lord of the Flies, which I'll get to in a bit. Yeah, I think I'm gonna rate this one 3 stars. I need to fill in my journal with books like this, but this is a good read. I'm glad I read a classic. I'm glad I read that because I never read anything by Ernest Hemingway before. Okay, I am so excited to talk about this book. I trudged through this book. Like, I read this book so slow. This book is the reason why it's taking me this long to film this portion of the video, like, because I haven't gotten to it. These kids get stranded on a deserted island. There's nobody on the island except this beast that they think is there. The kids name this one kid Ralph as the chief, as the leader of the whole group of kids. But I would say the first third of the book. They're all chill, they're happy with each other. It's like they're living in the glamour of this island. But then these sort of island politics start to arise, and Jack, who is like the antagonist of the book, he is more focused on hunting and being like manly and masculine and all that stuff, instead of Ralph, who wants to start a fire which makes smoke to alert somebody to rescue them. They spend a lot of time on this island and they're trying to be rescued. So it's basically like rivals clashing together. Some characters die. It's like crazy. It gets really crazy. And this is a bit of a longer book, so I feel like I can have more to say about it, and because I read it that much more recently, whereas these two, I read them like, feels like 6 months ago. But honestly, I really, really, really like this book. The ending is just so telling of what they've been through in their own little society that they made. They're so far removed from normal society that they created their own, and they don't know how to differentiate those two like headspaces, like mindsets. I think I'm gonna rate it like 4.5 range, or you know what, I think I'm gonna do 4.25. There were some like descriptive paragraphs that I feel like they went on a bit too long, and just stuff where I'm like, okay, what's happening here, what's going on here. I feel like the reason this is a classic is that this book is such a precise examination of what happens when you take order away and it becomes disorder, like discord, chaos. This book is what happens when you take all that good stuff, the good stuff that makes a society function, away from kids. This book explores the consequences of that. Like, there's fights, there's tribal, like, Jack, the antagonist, makes a whole, like, cult almost of the villains, of, like, these bad kids that do bad things. They hunt, they end up killing a few of the characters, and it's just the consequences of that dictatorship and how they affect these kids mentally. It's like the question, what would you take on a deserted island, or what would you do on a deserted island? This book takes that question like and examines it times 100. I don't know if I'm making sense. I'm glad that it's a classic. I feel like it's been assigned reading in a lot of schools. I personally didn't have to read it, but I picked it up of my own accord. I was like, oh, this looks interesting. I kind of want to see what it's about. It has fire on the cover. I didn't know why there was fire on the cover for the longest time, and then by like the last parts of the last few pages of the book, you understand why there's fire on the cover. Anyway, yeah, that's where I lie on all 3 of these books. I don't think I'll be reading classics again for a pretty long time because you see how long it took me to put this video out. I meant to put this video out weeks ago. Graduation and work and finishing all my assignments, it just got in the way so much. But yeah, I read these 3 books and I told you my disorganized thoughts on them. Let me know what you think of this video. If you would like me to read any more classics, just let me know. If you want me to, what kind of books you want me to read more in the future. If you want any recommendations, I'd be happy to make videos on that and read more on that and research for you. But anyway, that is the end of the video. I hope this was a satisfying conclusion to the month and a half it took me to make this. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the concept of this video, me reading books, or me reading classics specifically. And have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.